Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the first installment of what I call the Pencil Thin Podcast. My name is Jake Faircloth. I will be your host, and I know a lot of you probably know me from The Wiseman Show, but I'm here to bring something slightly different. A lot of people have been reaching out, asking to be a guest on this podcast, and I'm just going to start this episode by letting everybody know, if I haven't already let you know, that this will be, for now, a no-guest podcast. I have debated for a very, very, very long time, even when we were doing The Wiseman Show, whether or not I thought I had the ability to carry a one-man show, because for anybody that doesn't know, doesn't do a podcast, or isn't familiar, or doesn't listen to podcasts regularly, doing a podcast by yourself is something that is not easy. Carrying on conversation without somebody to bounce off of is something that takes skill. And I have deliberated with myself for a long time on whether or not I thought I had that skill, and I've come to the conclusion that I believe that I do. So I think I'll be able to provide good content, a quality show on my own. So without further ado, I bring to you the Pencil Thin Podcast, Episode 1. Welcome. All right, let's get right into it. So the first thing I want to address is something that a lot of people have been asking me. Why the name? Why the title? What is the Pencil Thin Podcast? So the first thing that I will say is, as somebody that is an avid podcast listener, I think that it is important that you have your own ideas about what that means to you. But what I will tell you what it means to me is, and something I'll get into as we go on here, but the show has been in existence in my mind for quite some time. The title I did not have, so I wasn't ready to go until I had the title. And actually, the title was sort of influenced by Kanye West, because I feel like throughout his entire career, while he has definitely been consistent on a lot of levels, on many other levels, he's been so inconsistent with how he views things, how he talks about things, and part of that, maybe his mental health, maybe his health issues. But I feel like everything that Kanye does and says, specifically over the last probably 10 years, has been so pencil thin and can change at any given moment. And I feel like we're really hard on him for that, probably because of who he is and just the way the world is these days. But the truth of the matter is, all of our opinions change from day to day. Everything that we claim to stand on is pencil thin and can change at the drop of a hat. We may not have the same opinion. I mean, chances are, if you have the same opinions that you had 10 years ago, you're not growing. And so I feel like it's important to highlight the fact that we are all hypocrites. All of our opinions are pencil thin and can change at the drop of a hat. And so that's why I chose to do that, because I think I've noticed that about myself. I make bold statements, bold predictions, bold claims all the time that either A, I go back on, or B, I'm wrong about. And sometimes, there's the rare moments where I'm correct. But this show is going to be about giving you my pencil thin predictions, my pencil thin thoughts that might change from one episode to the next. So that to me is the meaning and why I decided to call it that. Not to mention just the alliteration of it, the Pencil Thin Podcast. It pops. They got them P's, popping with the P's. You know what I'm saying? Especially rappers. Rappers know what I'm talking about. So, I'm gonna be talking about all kinds of shit, man. I may not stick to the hip hop genre. I may, venture out into all kinds of pop culture shit. Whatever's happening in the world, whatever's going on in my head, whatever it is I feel the need to get off my chest, that's what I'm gonna be talking about. So we're gonna start this week with, I know it's probably a little late for these opinions, and I've given some of them already on social media, but I want to talk about this. I guess ultimately Drake versus Kanye thing. I recorded this episode once already, and I had some issues, so that's why it didn't come out when it was supposed to. But hopefully you're still tuned in, and even the release of this whole podcast has been pencil thin, because it's my shit. and I can release it whenever I want to, and whoever really truly cares and wants to tune in is tuned in right now. And if you didn't care, then you didn't tune in, and you're not even seeing this, and maybe you'll tune into the next episode. But I'm doing this because I need a platform. I need a place to just speak. And if you're paying attention to the things that I'm doing and saying on social media, you probably know that I got some other shit in the works as well. I know a lot of people probably want me to come back into the interview world, which I am doing. So stay tuned and you'll see more about that. But enough about that. So I want to get into these albums, man. So the first thing that I'm going to say is I personally really enjoy both albums. I think both albums are great in their own right. I think they're very, very different. I don't even think that. They are very different. If you've listened, you know how different they are. But, this goes into the whole pencil thin opinion thing. Like, I think, we see it happen every time a highly anticipated album drops. People jump out the window right away talking about either A, it's trash, or B, it's a classic. We got to start. I wish we could start letting shit breathe a little bit before we start jumping out the window with our opinions, like we used to. I mean, at least like I used to, and people that I know used to. But to call something a classic after a day, even after a month, it's too much. It's too quick. In order for something to be a classic, it's got to withstand the test of time. So I will start there. Do I believe that Drake's album, Certified Lover Boy, is going to withstand the test of time? I kind of don't. It's a very paint by numbers Drake album, which if you're a Drake fan, that's fine. That works really well. But, and he sold, 600,000 first week, which he's always going to do. He's always going to do that. He's the biggest artist in the world. That's just how it's always going to happen. I'm a little disappointed as a Drake fan, borderline Drake stan, as everybody knows, that he didn't really color outside the lines at all on this one. I was hoping he would deliver some new shit. And I mean, while there's definitely some stuff on there, it was a little cookie cutter for me. Again, I would like to say that's okay, and I enjoy the album. I was just hoping maybe there would be some more, like I said, coloring outside the lines, doing things a little different. But we got what we got, and it's a good album. I mean, it's a really good album. Drake doesn't make bad music, really. So I enjoy the album. Is it a front to back thing for me? There's a couple of skips in there. I think the obviously the one that's supposed to be the single, Way Too Sexy with Future and Thugger, like, it's not great. It's a skip for me. The video is fun, and he's smart to make it the single because, his the largest portion of his demographic, I believe, is women, and that women like that. Women like that music, like that type of music, especially from Drake. And it's a fun, catchy, upbeat song, and it'll work in the clubs. I don't really know what's happening in the clubs these days. From everything that I've heard, people don't dance in the club anymore, so I don't really know if that's going to be happening. But it's a skip for me. I'm trying to pull up the track list here so I can really determine, if there are any other skips. The features, obviously, great features. And Drake is great at creating kind of those little interludes. Yebba's Heartbreak was kind of perfectly placed, perfectly timed. Yebba is great. Fucking Fans. That one's for me. Those are probably the skips for me. My first bold claim that I'm going to make right now is I don't really like the song with Hove. I don't really like it. Obviously, they both rap their ass off, but it's kind of it was sort of a boring song to me. I don't know why. It's just not one that I run to, and it is one that I will skip. It just is. No disrespect to either of what either of them did on the song. It just doesn't do a lot for me, for whatever reason. I can't even explain exactly why. Like I said, they both of them snapped. Obviously, two of the greatest. Drake is pretty well known for his album intros, and he did it again with Champagne Poetry. Some of the things that that Drake gets knocked on is that he doesn't really touch on like world issues. So that's a non-issue for me. For one, I think because he's such a huge artist, and I think probably the majority of the people watching or listening to this are from the United States of America, I think we forget that Drake is from Canada. So while, yes, he experiences a large amount of success here in the States, I don't really care about a Canadian's opinion on the state of the U.S. So while I understand that some, these issues are worldwide, social issues and things like that, issues with, race and police and, things that are going on in the world, COVID, all that shit. But I don't need that from Drake. I just don't. I don't need that from Drake. If he wants to give us that, I'm cool with that. But I'm not looking for it, and it's not really ever been him. However, I will argue that on the intro, on Champagne Poetry, I think maybe a lot of people missed it. But, I mean, he did touch on some social issues. He said, yeah, heavy day for real. The city's on fire. People are in denial. Charges being laid, but we'll see what they do with trial. I'm calling this shit from now. Sweetheart deals that the judge has been handing down. I haven't been able to see my family for a while. That shit is wearing me out. So, I mean, I know it's just a few bars, but I mean, he is touching on things that are happening, that are happening. He is touching on social issues and issues with our judicial system and all that. And he even addressed it right after that. He said, and he's aware that he doesn't touch on these issues. He said, I know I tend to talk about how I got a fortune on me, but with that comes the politics the city's been forcing on me. I can't even RIP and show my remorse to the homie. Plus, I carry the guilt of the city's misfortune on me. I even got the cleaning staff plotting extortion on me. So, I mean, and he even talks about visiting his therapist. So, I mean, it's not like Drake don't ever really talk about real shit. Like, that is real shit. And I think the thing that I've always found great about Drake is, some people use this as a knock, that he talks about himself, but he doesn't talk about himself. He's not always speaking nicely about himself. He talks about his flaws. He talks about his issues. He talks about his personal life, and all that. So, I mean, I don't understand the knock on that. I don't get that. I feel like that's something that people that just, want to hate Drake or have an issue with Drake use. But I also feel like a lot of people that hate on Drake and use those things against him don't actually listen to him, which is fine. But then just say that. To me, that's, just say that. So for me, I personally love Drake, and I found Drake very, very, very early in his career. I mean, I would say even before his career really even started. I was talking to somebody the other day about how I found a ton of his music very, very early on, before anybody knew who he was. I think he was still on Degrassi when I found it, actually. There was a website called Crackspace, which I think later was determined to be kind of a racist name for a website, because it was called Crackspace and it was all about black culture and and hip hop and R&B and music. And my dog. This is my dog Nipsey right here. And yes, he is named after the late great Nip Hussle. He does not, however, carry Nipsey's personality. So anyways, I don't even remember what I was talking about. But I digress. I found Drake early. Yeah, I think I found Drake in like 2007, 2008. And was very, like, immediately like, well, what is this guy? Who is this? It was actually similar to how I came to love Kanye. It was so much different than what anybody else was doing at the time. Yeah, just the sounds, the melodies, the singing his own choruses. But I think the thing that made Drake special with the singing, because he's not a good singer. Anybody that thinks Drake is a good singer is ridiculous. He is not a good singer. But it was like he would sing his own choruses, but he would actually try. You know what I'm saying? Hey, bro, you gotta go. Watch out, Nip. Watch out. Watch out. It's real life right now. So yeah, there was something about him actually trying to sing his own choruses that I think I liked. I think a lot of people liked. And he still does it to this day. And he's great at it. Because even though Drake can't really sing, nobody does sing like Drake. Like, nobody has his voice. So it is unique in its own right. And that's, again, there's so many similarities to him and Kanye, because Kanye is the same way. Kanye can't sing for shit either. But when he does, there is something special about it. You know what I mean? Like, it's a bad singing voice, but it's still a good voice, if that makes sense. I love it when Kanye sings, and I love it when Drake sings. I love the R&B shit from Drake. I found out really quickly with Scorpion just how much of it I like, because Scorpion to me is probably his worst album, and a big part of it is because of the R&B side. We didn't need that. You know what I mean? Like, Jaded mixed in with the first half would have been cool, and maybe Blue Faces. What was a couple of the other ones? I'm having a hard time coming up with titles, but if you've heard Scorpion, you know what songs on the R&B side were good, and he could have done away with the rest of them and just mixed them in with the first half of Scorpion. To me, and that would have made it a better album. Still wouldn't have been a great album, because even the A side wasn't great. It felt like a entire album with diss tracks. That's what it felt like. It felt like he was just talking to Kanye and Pusha and anybody over at Good Music the entire time. And at the time that the album dropped, I was kind of done with that. It felt like that had really ran its course. We needed to just be done with the whole Pusha versus Drake thing. But yeah, so I mean, that's my critique and that's my opinion. I do like the album. It is going to get replay from me. It definitely has. Majority of the songs to me are good, and a few are great. So, with all that being said, I'm a little disappointed, but mostly I'm okay with it. I enjoyed the album. Obviously, 7 a.m. on Bridal Path. I mean, I don't know. There's just not a lot of people that rap like that, man. There just isn't. So, me personally, I know, and I'm not gonna get into this, and luckily there's nobody here to push me on this, but the whole writing thing, I think we need to let that die. I personally believe that whole writing thing needs to die, because it's clear that Drake is one of the greatest writers in hip hop we've ever seen. His pen is impeccable. He's one of the GOATs. I think it can be argued that he is the greatest of all time. It could be argued. I'm not saying that I'm 100% going to stand on that. He's got some work to do still, and he's got a lot of career left. But when you put the whole package together, everything together, man, there's an argument to be made. And especially when you talk about, the generation that came up with him. I would say, obviously you could argue, for my generation that Hove is the GOAT. And I wouldn't necessarily argue with you if you felt that way. For me, Pac is always going to be the GOAT. But at this time, I'll be honest, man, Drake has pulled up neck and neck with Pac for me. And that's just for me, my opinion, only for me. I don't expect everybody to have that opinion. And like I said, it's pencil thin. Kendrick might drop next week. And I might go full 360 and be like, you know what? Kendrick's the GOAT. I might. That's how it works. That's just how life works. So the opinion is pencil thin, but right now, when it comes to career longevity, how long Drake has dominated, the questions that have been put in front of him about his career, is he done? Is his run over? The answer is fuck no. The run ain't even close to over. It looks like it's ramping up again. Man, he just don't stop. He always delivers. So, I'm gonna give Certified Lover Boy. I'm gonna give it a 7.5 out of 10. It's a solid album. He didn't really push the boundaries. That's okay. I'm hoping as he ages in the industry that maybe he can get more comfortable pushing the boundaries a little bit. And that is one more thing that I'll add before I move on to Kanye is Drake has pushed boundaries and Drake has birthed children in this industry. So it's not like Drake has never pushed boundaries or never created new things or done new things. Drake has touched just about any genre that we have aside from country, and I think there's even some shit out there that you could argue maybe even touched country. So it's not like Drake has been afraid to push boundaries. He definitely has. I just wanted to hear. I think what I wanted to hear in this album was maybe slightly more introspect, and also production. Like 40 is phenomenal at what he does. But I think part of maybe what happened, and maybe I wouldn't feel this way if Kanye hadn't also dropped, Kanye is pushing genre-bending boundaries. Oof, that's not genre-bending boundaries. Say that 10 times fast. And he always has, but with this one, it felt like he hadn't done it in a while. And actually, it felt like, I think the last time... Do you need to come over here and say hi? No? Okay. He don't like that I'm talking to nobody. It's making him nervous. He doesn't know what's going on. Quit your whining. Go lay down. Go lay down. You're good. Yeah. Pushing the boundaries with the production. And I think the last time Kanye did that was probably, like truly did that, was Yeezus. Where he really tried something really, really far outside the box. And to be honest, I think Yeezus was actually a pretty good album, but I think it was way ahead of its time because I've recently gone back and listened to it, and it works better nowadays than it did then. I just think people weren't ready for it. So, yeah, let's move on to Donda. So I'm just going to preface this whole opinion with I'm giving Donda a 9.5 out of 10. I absolutely adore this album. I think that he rushed it. Well, actually, I think news came out that he did indeed rush it because he wanted to drop before Drake. And I think that actually benefited the album because there are portions of it that do sound unfinished. And almost in the same realm of Hose 444, there was something charming about that. I think the unfinished sound, it almost feels like he's letting you in on the creation process. It's kind of like it almost I don't want to speak for anybody else. It makes me feel privileged, almost like one of your favorite artists sending you some unfinished work just to get your quick opinion on it. Like, do you think this is dope? Now, normally, unmixed, unfinished music drives me crazy. But because it's Kanye, it was sort of perfect. And I also really like the fact that he seemed to very strategically choose the features that he put on here. And I heard a lot of people that were kind of upset with him and felt like he was trying to like dick ride or clout chase. But the fact of the matter is, we're talking about Kanye West. He doesn't need to do that. That's not something that he needs to do. If anything, giving somebody a chance to be on a Kanye song, that's a blessing for them. And I feel like people have just forgotten who Kanye is. Like, what are we talking about here? You know what I mean? This doesn't make any sense whatsoever that people would think that Kanye needs to clout chase. I really believe that that's not ever Kanye's intention. I don't think he's ever clout chasing. I think Kanye is a very free individual with his thoughts and his ability to just say what the fuck he's thinking whenever he wants to say it. And I appreciate that. And then the other thing that I will say is I think people, for whatever reason, we have a really short memory. This ain't new for Kanye. Kanye has always been like this. Kanye has always been like this. From the day he came into the industry, he's been boisterous. He's been brutally honest. He has spoken out of turn. He has... I mean, that's what makes Kanye Kanye. So it's like we loved him for it for so long, and then I don't know what happened, if like social media changed us or some of these movements changed us, but like the reason we love Kanye is because of this shit. And my stance has never changed on that. The only time my stance has changed on Kanye is when he started doing all that red cap and shit, because that really, it felt divisive and it felt backwards and it felt like who is this guy? Like, who is this person? What is he like? Honestly, what I thought is Kanye is so famous and so deeply immersed in his own life that he had no idea what was going on out here. And I still believe that that's possible. I think that that's possible. I know that might sound crazy, but it is very possible. If you go back and watch the Drink Champs episode with Lil Wayne, and you listen to him talk about things that were very common in just a regular person's life that he didn't know anything about. He didn't even remember. I mean, like, I forget what it was, but there was like I think it was like maybe Migos or something like that. He didn't even know who they were. Like, he had to be explained who they were, but like, it's very possible that when you're that famous and you have that much money and you've been in the industry for so long, you've been famous for that long, that you just check the fuck out. And especially if you're that big of a deal and you're not the one running your social media pages, which chances are most of these people that are, up in the millions of followers ranges don't actually control or even monitor their own social media. It's very possible that you could be left out in the dark and not really know. Now, it seems wild that Kanye West wouldn't know the things that Trump had said and done. I wish I wouldn't even said his name. But I really actually think that it's possible. And one of his closest, oldest friends, GLC, came out in an interview, which this just totally got brushed over, and said that he was doing that to infiltrate because he was trying to help get people out of prison. Now, I don't know the details, so I'm not going to just spout off about it, but he did get some people out of prison. And a lot of people's arguments would be, well, there's a lot of people still in prison. Well, yeah, but if he could get one person out of prison that didn't deserve to be there, then he did a good deed. You know what I mean? So I think that there's an element to it where, I think some of it is attention. We know Kanye likes a lot of attention and maybe didn't understand the ramifications of that kind of attention, or maybe he fully understood it. But I believe that he's sorry about it, and I believe that he's made up for that mistake. So I was really upset about it when it happened. But and then the slavery was a choice comment, which, let's be real, obviously slavery was not a choice, but it came out in a Kanye way. He didn't mean for it to sound that way. He really didn't. I knew what he meant, and I'm not going to go into my opinions on that. He's talking more about modern day slavery. When an NFL football player talks about this is slavery and all that. And I understand what they mean by that as well. And I'm not even saying that there's not an element of that. But the fact of the matter is, I think, man, this is a topic I probably shouldn't even broach. So I'm just going to stop now. But I don't believe that Kanye really meant that he thought slavery was a choice. It was a thought that came out of his face that he probably should have just not said, because it sounded really bad. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's exactly how he meant it. I hope not. But I don't believe that's how he meant it. I think he fully understands I think he has a full understanding of what slavery was, and that slavery was not ever a choice. That's not how that worked. I think it was more in reference to modern day slavery. So, anyways, enough of that subject. That's not my subject to even discuss, I don't think. But I forgive Kanye West. I'm forgiving him because here's another bold opinion. I think that Kanye West is the greatest artist of all time. The greatest artist. Not rapper, not singer, not guitar player. The greatest artist of all time. And because this is a pencil thin podcast, I don't feel like I need to explain why I think that. I think y'all can comment when you watch this. Please leave your comments below. But if you think about what Kanye has provided for us for a very, very long time, 2 decades, I honestly don't even know if it's debatable. And that's not to say that he can't be tied with some, neck and neck with some. You know, you could put him up there with Michael Jackson, put him up there with Prince. I guess you can mention the Beatles. I hate the fucking Beatles. I think the Beatles are trash. I think the Beatles are the most overrated musical group ever. But I understand the impact that they had in music. And you know that he doesn't belong in any other conversation. So that brings me to the Drake versus Kanye thing. The albums are not to be compared. You can't compare them. They're 2 different genres. Kanye is not a rapper. Kanye is an artist that raps sometimes. But Kanye is a composer. The production on Donda is just not something you're going to get from anyone else or anywhere else. And to be honest with you, I think Kanye birthed a whole new genre. This is, I was riding in the truck the other day, and somebody asked me, "Is this modern day gospel?" And my initial reaction was to say yes. And then I thought about it for a second. I realized this is not modern day gospel. This is Kanye gospel. There's nothing else out there that sounds like this. And it is gospel mixed with hip hop, mixed with R&B, mixed with, a choir. You got instruments, live instrumentation. Just things that nobody else is doing. So I don't think that Drake and Kanye can even be compared. I really don't. I don't think that there's a comparison. And I don't think the album should even be mentioned in the same breath. It makes no sense. I know I'm mentioning them in the same breath, but that's because I'm giving my opinions. But Donda is just Donda is a production. Donda is an orchestration. Donda is Donda's an experiment gone right. So I give Donda a 9.5 out of 10. I think it's beautiful. I know a lot of people are talking about, that it has skips, or they only listen to the songs with features. Man, I love it straight through, top to bottom. I love every single song on there. Quite a few of those songs really, really resonate with me, especially at the time I'm at in my life where I have recently really formed a relationship with God. A lot of that really resonates with me. So part of it is probably the time of my life that I'm in. But the fact of the matter is, I have been an enormous Kanye West fan since the day he dropped. There are not a lot of albums that I have a memory of having the first, the memory of getting the album the first day. And College Dropout is a pivotal moment in my life because, I'll tell the story. It was my buddy Travis and I think Through the Wire, and what was the second single? Overnight Celebrity? No, not Overnight Celebrity. Slow Jams. I believe Slow Jams. Yeah, Slow Jams and Through the Wire were out. And even those songs were different. Through the Wire, Kanye's rapping wired shut teeth. You know what I mean? Like his teeth are wired shut, and he's going rapping, like really rapping. So that is just monumental on its own. And then, slow jams. I mean, for one, I was a big Twista fan then too. Not to say that I'm not anymore, but and then you got Kanye. There was something about Kanye's voice, and then if you go back and listen now, the production that Kanye was bringing at that time, unmatched. There's nobody that was the most. Now everybody tries to do that shit, the soul samples and all that, and so many people try to do it after, but nobody ever matched what he was doing. It was beautiful, like it was so incredibly beautiful, and so those two songs were out, and so I was already liking Kanye West, or as a lot of people called him then. I don't know if people remember, a lot of people called him Kane West because they couldn't understand. I don't know, placement of letters, I guess. I don't know. But, yeah, I remember we hopped in Travis's little red GTP, and we went up to Best Buy at Northtown, and we got the album, and right off the bat, I mean, you remember, you got Bernie Mac. It wasn't Bernie Mac. It was, man, I can't remember his name. Really funny comedian. He's on Wild 'N Out. He's on all kinds of shit. He's in all kinds of movies now. I can't remember his name, but doing the Bernie Mac impression. And then, you know what I mean? Just, it was like the whole album. I hope people that are watching this remember what it was like to hear that album for the first time, because it was unlike anything we had ever heard. I mean anything. There was nobody doing what he was doing at the time. And I just remember the feeling that it gave me of, it was like, it was pure joy, and then emotion, and then it was like, and then all of a sudden, he's going bar for bar with Talib Kweli and Hove, and then you got Jesus Walks, and it was like, I mean, even Jesus Walk. That's the thing that people. Another thing that people I think forget is Kanye. Jesus and God have always been very present in his music. I mean, always. Every album, there's tons of references to Jesus and God and religion. That's not a new thing for Kanye either. But yeah, I just remember, the full range of emotions, and maybe even some new emotions that I had never felt before, because at that time when that album came out, I was how old? I must have been 18, 17, 18, something like that. And yeah, I mean, it took you through the full range of emotions. It's a perfect album. Absolutely perfect. So, yeah. I started talking about Donda, and now I'm talking about College Dropout. So, yeah, I just think, again, I'll go back to it, and I'm going to wrap this episode soon because I want to make sure that people stick around for it. I don't want them to be too long, but, I think Donda is a great album, and I would love for people to comment on this. Drop your comments and let me know what you thought. Rate it out of 10. Let me know what you think. Give me your opinions. Just give me the number, the rating if you want to. However you want to do it, it doesn't matter. But I give Donda a 9.5 out of 10. I am blown away by it. I hope that he takes it on tour. I have to assume that he's going to, because he stands to probably make $1 billion on that tour if he does it. And I hope it comes to the Twin Cities, because no matter where it's at, I don't care if it's outside in the middle of January and it's snowing, I'm going. I got to see it. I have to see the live rendition of this album. I have to. So I hope he brings it here. I almost went to Chicago for it. I thought about it because I really wanted to see it. It feels like we got Kanye back, sorta. Felt like he was maybe out on a wire a little bit, and it feels like we sort of got him back. And I am very pleased by that. I believe he is the greatest artist of all time, and this is one of his better albums, even though I wouldn't lump it in with any of his hip hop albums. Yeah, man, I love it. I absolutely love it. And I also really like Drake's album. I give it a much lower rating because he didn't really go outside the box too much. But the bars are impeccable. He's one of the best rappers alive. And yeah, I wish they'd work together. I'm hoping within the next year or two we could maybe see them piece it up And just imagine this. I'm going to leave you with this thought. This is my final thought. And I would love to hear people's opinions on this. Imagine a Drake album produced entirely by Kanye West. Probably the greatest hip-hop album of all time. I'm just saying. Greatest hip-hop album of all time. Drake, produced entirely by Kanye West. Rip this clip out of this episode and send it to them. See if we can get it done. Or just post this and tag them in it. So, that's all I got. But I hope y'all tune in week to week, man. If you're not already, please be sure to go follow the Pencil Thin Podcast on Twitter and on Instagram. And this episode will be up on SoundCloud and everywhere else you get your podcasts, and YouTube. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please make sure that you click that little subscribe button down there and share this with your friends. And if you didn't enjoy this episode, I can promise you they're going to get better. This is only the first one. I feel like it went well. Hopefully y'all enjoyed it. And also, for any of my Twin Cities people that are watching this, just know that I will be definitely integrating music from artists based out of the Twin Cities into this podcast. My plan next week for episode number 2 is to discuss top tier MCs, and I will be including MCs out of the Twin Cities that I believe are just as good, if not better, than the Drakes, Kendrick Lamar's, Jay-Z's, J. Cole's, because we got some hitters here, and I would like to address that. So with that being said, this has been episode 1 of the Pencil Thin Podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. Feel free to email me at pencilthinpod@gmail.com, or just go to Instagram and click the contact button, and that'll bring you right to it. If you have ideas or suggestions for things that you'd like me to talk about, by all means, I am open to any and all suggestions. And yeah, that's all I got. I hope y'all have a fucking blessed day. And thank you so much if you made it this far. We're at about 40 minutes. And if you made it this far, man, I love you. I really do. And even if you didn't, I still love you. But you won't hear me say that. But maybe whoever's watching can just pass that along to others. And even if you hated this podcast and stopped within this first 5 minutes, I still love you.